Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of the Outer Realm. Almost said Thursday. We are broadcasting live here via the International Public Radio right on United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. A little battered, still beautiful. This evening's segment, like every evening, is fully sponsored by
city of New Orleans. A little bad.
Who's on?
This evening's segment.
It won't turn off.
I'm going to do this again.
It won't turn off.
I'm going to do this again. This evening's segment, like every evening, is sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee. Thank you, Folgers. We love you, and we do appreciate you and all that you do for us. Thank you. Tonight, we do welcome, for the very first time here on the Outer Realm, Ryan Stacey, and we're going to be discussing UFO research in Canada, going back to the basics, his techniques, maybe if we're lucky, a case or two. In order to participate in tonight's show, you're going to have to head over to the International Public Radio UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. We are not, I repeat, we are not on UFO Paranormal Radio Network this evening. So please head on over to one of those two radio net or YouTube channels. Thank you. We can see you in the chat room. We're going to be on Twitter. We're going to be on Twitch. I'm hoping we're going to be on the Outer Realm this evening, as well as the station Facebook pages. So please look out for that. So if you're struggling, then hopefully you'll be able to get over to our page and watch it live there. So thank you. And Bubbles seems to have everything under control at her end.
Yeah,
but the
so
echo,
sorry.
Yeah.
No, it played. And I couldn't lower the volume. It wouldn't lower on my phone. It just started playing by itself. I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
What the what?
What the heck? Yeah. What the hell is what I said? I was careful.
I'm like, what? I don't hear. I can. It must be your brain. I'm picking up on. I was like, what'd you say? I know what you're thinking and what you're saying are two different things. I know.
That word comes out of my mouth every second word, by the way, but not on air. Yeah, I said, what the hell? Like, seriously. I'm like, what is going on here? Because volume was turned off, and all of a sudden, 3 minutes in, the volume just shoots up. I'm like, really? It's just been that kind of a day.
It's been really screwy, though. I think, Joe, our producer, is having problems with this system also. So we're going to try to work our way around that and, see if anybody needs some, like, spankings. Messing with the system. Anyway, we'll figure that out. I know. So tonight, do you want to give a little bit of a bio for Ryan, and we'll get Ryan
on?
I love
his bio because it just didn't need any tweaking at all. Just saying, Ryan, I'm so excited to have you. Ryan Stacey, who is a PI, author, and citizen journalist, and active Canadian ufologist in the Canadian disclosure movement, as well as a paranormal psychogenic investigator. Ryan was also the National Chief Investigator for MUFON Canada, as well as the Director of Field Investigations, training for MUFON National USA. We are so excited to have him on today, a fellow Canadian. Please welcome Ryan Stacey to our show.
Woo, yay! Woo.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, Ryan.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Been excited for this episode. It's always nice having a Canadian ufologist on. You're very few, so we're very appreciative.
We are very rare, and we don't get along. It's weird.
Yeah, we have so many sightings up here.
Mm-hmm.
We have multitudes of sightings.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up seeing UFOs. That's like up Sudbury. That's like lots of stuff up there.
Tell me more. I like that
and
stuff.
He actually knows where Sudbury is, so it's
I know, because you're not really that far. No, I mean I just grew up, my grandfather, same, always had a telescope, always watched. My grandparents owned an island out of Lake Wanapitei, which is massive up there. And we would see them all the time. So it was always interesting. My mother actually worked with a priest, yes, a priest, who was the head of the astrology department at Laurentian University, and they were very active in communicating with the astronauts during the moonwalk. So I'm thinking, did you just hex us all? Just do something? Because now there's always stinking UFOs around. And there were. I remember just watching one night, and it probably took we lived in a valley, near a fairly large lake, and I watched it go down for about like 20 or so minutes, and the next morning, and I saw it take off, like just shoot up. The next morning, the whole valley was swarming with a couple of military helicopters from North Bay, and they were investigating, I guess, where it had gone down.
So do you think it was like paranormal, or do you think it was machine government cover up? Like where like it is it's unidentified, but where?
No, I know. Yeah, I know. One of those big old UAPs. I you know what? It's really hard to say because government does have them. And I've had, ET experiences. So I'm, probably contactee experiencer. Not overly concerned, but I don't know. With the amount of attention that it drew with the military, I have to say it was something they weren't expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, I would have to think there'd be no big to-do, because why would they want to attract even more attention to themselves, like coming in with these big helicopters and swarming around the different lakes in the area? It doesn't make a lot of sense if it was something we weren't supposed to know.
Mm-hmm.
Just
agree.
a thought.
No, I agree.
Excellent. Do I pass? Yeah.
Well, it's typical stuff. Like, I mean, like with my research, I can confirm that the Canadian government does investigate quite a lot of unidentified flying object activities.
Mm-hmm.
There is very little documentation as to what they are, because they don't seem to always arrive after, because they get reported by civilian pilots for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So they're responding to, and then by the time they get there, the objects are gone. So when I'm reading the flight logs and the reports and everything from declassified documents, which I've been able to retrieve, I'm seeing evidence of them sending these this response from NORAD, from North Bay.
Right,
so
right.
I always asked myself the same idea. It's like, what's worth that amount of money? Because to get those birds in the sky, that costs a lot of money.
That's true.
So a light in the sky, these are things like the light chasing the aircraft, the light moving at the same speed and altitude without it being on radar. So reports like that makes sense. That's weird.
Right.
Let's get up, let's find out what that is.
Right.
That happens, but we're not getting, so far, I'm not able to get any confirmed feedback as to if or what they're intercepting.
Well, what we're going to do for a moment is, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, is I want people to know Ryan Stacey. So what made you get into UFO research? Why don't we start with the humble beginnings, and that way Amelia and I can actually catch up.
Yeah, no worries. I always, this is an important part, but I don't always, I don't like it, but it's okay. I started out as a paranormal. I started out as a paranormal investigator. Me and my wife were very involved in paranormal, and we had this group. It was called Blacklight Uncharted. So I'm a private investigator. I own and operate a private investigating firm called Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. So Blacklight Uncharted was just is what TESA is today, the Experiencers Support Association. So I started doing that, and then while trying to start up our private investigating firm, a job had come up where someone had a missing person. So they wanted me to help find their son, but they believed that their son was abducted by aliens. Oh. So I took the case, worked on it, didn't have anything to do. Plus I had an interest, and I ended up learning that this son wasn't abducted by aliens. He just joined Scientology. So that we ended up finding him, locating him, and did all that. So because in order to find him, I had to join all these groups where everyone's talking about paranormal and everyone's talking about UFOs. So like that's kind of how I got into it. And then later on, I saw a message where someone was complaining about being robbed from like $200 from some organization. So I
Ooh.
chimed in, say, hey, I'm a PI. It's against the law. How can I help you? And then I was like, okay, well, let me sort this out. So it turned out that this person had purchased the MUFON manual. And because they bought it from, they're Canadian, but they bought it in the US, there was a little bit of a period of time that was delayed to get it here to Canada. So through my investigation, I ended up contacting Stu Bundy, who was the national director at the time, sorted that out real quick. And then he's like, hey, you're an investigator? What's that like for real? And then we had a conversation. And then it was like wintertime, like November or something, 2015. He's like, you want to get into UFOs? We could really do it. I was like, yeah, sure. I got nothing better to do right now. I'm just kind of
The
waiting.
winter time out in no man's land.
Yeah, and then I
Yeah.
get my first case, which you can see in my wall back here. This that right back there. That's my first case that I ever had with MUFON.
Right.
It was a cold case that had absolutely, what was instructed to be talk to the guy and let it go. But I was able to get more information, which turned out to be what I'm calling now the paranormal hat trick, which is it started out with paranormal activity, led to contact activity, and then led to abduction, and then UFOs. Like everything is all intermixed with this one guy. And then that got published. And then so through that work, I eventually went from field investigator trainer to to the director of field investigator training. The Ontario director. And I was the assistant field investigator for Canada. And then I went over to national to help them train their field investigators. I had a little bit of an issue with how they were spending more time with getting sales and money for the organization and less time on the investigations. So I stepped down and I went back to Canada to focus on the investigations. And then there was a little bit of a long story short, there's a little bit of information I discovered, I exposed, and then I got forced out. So when I got forced out, there was a whole bunch of issues with the reporting system in general with MUFON. And what I did is I created a platform to fix their problems. So as the director of field investigator training, my job was to help all these field investigators and being the expert in investigations. I looked at the manual, and the manual needed to be up to date, and then software needed to be up to date. So the excuse that I got back is we don't have time to change anything. We don't have the money, because they're like 50 years old of doing it the same way for so long. So I created a platform that I was willing to give to them to use for free, and they turned that down. And that's what Tessa is now. So I'm actually doing what I wanted to do with MUFON on my own now. Which is kind of sweet paradise, because they're talking to me again because they want to be on board.
Mm-hmm.
But so long story short, that's how I got into that. Now Tessa, which is the Experiencer Support Association, that also stems from my paranormal roots, but more so of the experiencer, abductee, contactee, person engaging the phenomenon and aspect. And what I do with those investigations is I'm studying the people. I'm trying to understand why you are the way that you are, why you are able to see a UFO and I am not, why you are able to contact the dead and I am not, and not just me and others, right? So and things like that too. So as I'm learning more about the people, I start to learn more about the phenomenon. And I started to realize really quickly, even when I was with MUFON, I realized these are just machines, within the first month. And then everything after that, I was really diving into the alien abductions and the paranormal stuff too, because MUFON didn't know how to handle it.
No, because they really are connected, aren't they?
Oh, they're definitely.
In some cases,
100%.
Yes.
And so I was fielding all the paranormal and all the abduction cases because MUFON wasn't equipped to do that. And then that's when I presented that opportunity with MUFON to say, this is how you guys can do this other stuff. But I never thought for a second that the UFOs that we have are operated by ET. I think it's interdimensional, psychogenic of the mind, things like that as well, prior to creating Tessa. So what I am doing is with Tim Morrison, he's our demonologist as well, we create another private investigator. We created what we call the ultra spectrum classification system, which we're basically reclassifying. I don't know if you're familiar with the Hynek and Valet classification system, which is what the UFO community currently uses right now. But when Hynek had his UFO classification, Valet had his extraterrestrial classification system, and then they combine
Jacques
them.
Vallée you're talking about.
Yeah, Jacques Vallée.
Right.
And they combined them, and then there was like, there's camps and all that, but it didn't have room for paranormal. So what Tim and I did is we made a way to include paranormal in that scientific spectrum.
Yeah, like the ultra spectrum is kind of like that ultra dimensional thing.
Yeah, and then it's like the next level of John Keel's super spectrum. So we kind of want to give homage to all the greats within that philosophy that had classifications, create our own, so that way that made sense with what we're doing as private investigators. So it's an evidence-based, category-based system where we would remove the archetype. So for an example, sensory display is what we would categorize both aerial activity and paranormal activity, because we're unable to clarify for sure at this point whether or not your encounter is being seen in this realm or another realm. So it allows the acceptance of the paranormal in the ufological community, because we have to agree that, like, yeah, okay, they're seeing it, but they're just, one's calling it a ghost, the other one's calling it an alien. Neither one could be captured, but these experiencers are experiencing the same thing. So then we have subcategories for that as well. So I guess a better example, like psychogenic. So for psychogenic, that category there, that could be used to include downloads, which is in the ufological spectrum, and possession, which would be in the demonology perspective. So whether you think you're being negatively possessed or positively infested or visited, we would both have to agree that the contact was made through the mind. So if the paranormal researcher and the UFO researcher can agree that it's the mind that's able to be used to make that contact, and they can work together to figure out why this person is seeing this or going through that in the same manner. And the reason why I did that is because, as the MUFON guy who tried to explain paranormal to these nuts and bolts scientist guys, they really had a hard time understanding it. And I don't really Tim and I had to dumb it down so that way they would get it. But the funny thing is the paranormal spectrum are all like, this is amazing because we now can classify our own events in a scientific way. And that's where I come into with this new ultra spectrum perspective. And what I'm trying to show is how paranormal investigators can also sit at the scientific table with citizen scientists and all that other stuff too. So I'm trying to bring the gaps together because there's more data. If I take the data from the paranormal perspective and the data from the UFO perspective, and then my data from the host perspective, what is the makeup, the age, the sex, the blood type, all that stuff might matter. And then the three of us can come together and be like, okay, so you meet this criteria. You may or may not be able to contact stuff. So let's put you in a box, and then we're going to take that box out with all the people we put in this box and be like, okay, make contact. Okay, let me put my camera on here, and then so that's kind of the concept is to recategorize the events, not the people. And we're not going to label the people. We're going to label the experiences in which they claim to have. And then my main rule within Tessa is not to, and that's the other thing too with MUFON, I had to debunk. I had to make sure that it was either a machine, something that can post, something that can they can promote. If it wasn't,
that's not always the case, though. They have to realize that.
Well, I know that. That's why I'm not there anymore.
Yeah, it's like what?
So because they couldn't do it, but what they used to do is they just get rid of it, and then the experiencer doesn't know because they put a report in and they're waiting and they're waiting and waiting. Meanwhile, they have no idea that they deleted it. Because it doesn't fit their criteria. So when I was in National, it was my job to delete it. I didn't know that was happening until I got up to the higher end. And that's when I said, no, I'm not deleting it. I'll just take the cases and I'll deal with it myself. And then I got overwhelmed and I created that platform, which I offered to MUFON to make it easier. So, because it was still MUFON and they said no. So then I just developed it and did it on my own. And it was only recently that I decided to say, you know what, I might as well do UFO too. Which was easier. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how I got pulled into this. And in the end, I'm an investigator through and through. I've always been interested in the phenomenon, and it hasn't been solved. I understand evidence. I understand how to collect it. I understand the sociology, the psychology, everything, all elements of it. I can understand the conspiratorial element. I can understand the lack of proof and all that other stuff. But what I really have come to define or really understand at this moment is there is a very few amount of people in the ufological community that actually know how to do an investigation. There is a lot of people in the paranormal community that know like a fair deal amount of investigation, which is more than UFO, which is kind of funny because they don't get along with each other.
And even that's a bit sketchy.
Sometimes, right? So I'm kind of like in this environment where I want to showcase my skills as an investigator who does this in real time every day. Like I pulled a full day today, you know, and now I'm in here. Like I investigate every single day. And for me, it doesn't really matter what I'm looking for, whether it's a ghost or an alien or a cheating husband. I have to look at the facts. I have to look at the scenario. I have to strategize and I have to dumb it down or break it down to what we know, and then everything else is speculation. So I've done that with ufology, even up into this recent disclosure thing from the United States. And I compare that to the way Canada is handling disclosure. Canada had declassified 8,000 documents of UFO sightings back in the 90s. No one's ever heard of it because
Russia was ahead of the U.S. U.S. I think was the last team to come on board, and even that's a preliminary. It's not even the full disclosure.
Yeah. So Canada's not really behind. They just don't really. They just know what it is, or it's not a threat. It's not of a concern. But yet so the other part in this thing as a PI, I was undercover for a very long time trying to understand who's selling a book and who's actually doing work and who's doing this and how to use the resources and stuff, because we get into healing and stuff as well with the Experience Support Association. And I've recently, have no friends because I'm a PI in the field, but that's because they know that I know that they're selling. Now, there's nothing wrong with making money in the industry. We have to cover our expenses, but when you're holding an event on UFO disclosure, for an example, and you're claiming you have the secrets that'll save our life, but I gotta pay $300 and fly all the way halfway across the world to hear you tell me the same thing you said on YouTube last week.
That makes it a little rough.
That's a little thing, right? Or I can, and the paranormal, sometimes that happens in the paranormal side too.
It happens
a lot in the paranormal. You
happens a lot.
Charge exorbitant amounts of money to give a reading.
I feel
well, I'm glad you said that because I knew this was a paranormal show, so I thought I'd start with crapping on the UFO and then kind of segue.
We're an everything show. We're an everything show. The paranormal, though, I think it's just a bone of contention with some people. I won't say everybody. A lot of people, UFO researchers, do start off in the paranormal. I know for myself, working really malevolent cases for a whole bunch of years. I've seen the crossover because some of the people who I've assisted on site, and we're going back 18 years, have had sightings of grays or reptilians. So they do cross over. And I think is it just a mistaken identity thing? With religious mindset. So if you're thinking demonic, is it really an archon? Is it really
demonic is the assumption. Like you have to prove intent. So let's talk about that. I like that. So an angel and a demon, okay, or an alien or a ghost, right? Like it's that, like these are archetype words to describe characteristics. An alien is the assumption that it came from outer space, but it could be interdimensional.
Yeah, it could be right here on planet Earth.
It could be an angel. right? If it had wings or it has the ability to fly, you want to get into the myth on how the angels have the wings and things like that too. But a demon is also an angel. But the thing is the demon is a word that we say because we feel negative about whatever it is that they're doing. But an angel,
it's been embedded into us, religion also.
It's how we feel. So it's quite possible, just like a human being could love you, could also hate you. And then you would change the way that you feel. And you would call a human a demon, or you would call, a human an angel, because it's like, oh, you're such an angel, or, stay away from that kid. He's a demon, because they're doing bad things and good things. So these are just labels. So when I have someone have an experience and one of the questions in our reporting system asks, is this a negative or a positive experience for you? Because it's very important to understand, where their mindset is, because if it's negative, regardless of what they think it is, then that will triage it, so that way we can at least cater to the emotion, and then we'll take our time on the investigation, even if I know that it's a known thing in their mind in the moment. It's a crisis, and that comes from my security background too, as a security guard with de-escalation and whatnot in the field. So once we handle that, then it's like, was it really a negative thing? Well, no, I just felt negative because I felt bad. I was scared. Okay. But maybe they were healing you, right? Okay. So then we want them to start feeling a bit better about the encounter, so they can be more comfortable. So that way, the next time it happens, they're paying attention. And it's not just with our reporting system too. It allows us, yes, we get a report and that's great. I'm not so concerned about getting the initial report. What I'm concerned more is getting the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. So with our reporting system too, and the research I'm doing, I'm able to timeline events too. So as an example, because I investigate everything, because it has to be all connected or none of it. It either all exists or none exists. So I'm investigating. I'm letting any case come in, whatever, and removing the fluff. And then breaking it down to the person, because the person believes, and I need to understand, is that religion?
It's mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
How they perceive it, they interpret it.
But then there's a little few that do start to draw things that are weird, that don't make sense. And then I have somebody in other parts of the world drawing the same thing, and I know that they don't know each other. And then I start to be like, okay, well, how are you seeing the same thing in your mind or in visual? What's going on here? And then I do deeper dives on that. So we want to be careful not to mislabel or misjudge, just focus on the experience. And then with the ability to get those multiple experiences, so somebody will usually report the first thing that weighs on their mind as when they think I got to make a report. But then we get all the reports in, and then I investigate all the events separately, but I do my debrief on the experience, on the person. So the person is the case. But okay, then we kind of do a timeline. And what I'm seeing as a pattern is it usually starts with UFO or contact experience at a very young age. Later on, there's some psychic abilities and some paranormal activity. And then as they get older, there's psychic abilities. And what people don't really realize is, as they're talking about their stories at a young age, they're talking about UFO, talking about paranormal, talking about psychic things throughout their life. But when I timeline it, there seems to be this pattern that it starts with some contact, and then all of a sudden the paranormal comes in. So I'm starting to think or theorize or focus my study towards the possibility that the contact is enhancing or creating this psychic ability. And then the question wonders whether or not we're actually communicating back to the contact, or if, say, a poltergeist activity, for an example, we don't have enough evidence to determine whether or not that is something from the other side, or perhaps ourselves. There's not a lot of people consider ourselves as being the source. And I have a lot of evidence to suggest that we as people are more powerful or more likely to be able to manipulate space and time.
Oh, everything.
Exactly.
Projecting energy, psychokinesis, telekinesis. There's stories of people having time slips and just, just popping into a different dimension, waking up going, where the hell was I?
You're not going to get that from UFO disclosure. They're just going to tell you that it
No.
belongs to us, and then that's all we can say, and
Well, for sure. And I think, when you're walking around, everybody, just about everybody on the planet's got a cell phone, eyes on the sky. It's not really hard, like you're seeing more and more of it all the time. But I don't know, I think media has a lot to do with clouding and instilling fear. I mean, that's what it's supposed to do. That's what it's paid to do. So, we all
you've
walk
done
around.
a lot of shows too yourself, right? Like when you comment on these things, it's got to be entertainment.
Do you know how many answers I give to one question? I know the one they take. It's always the most freaking dramatic.
Yeah.
You don't know about all the logical questions or the answers I've given. No, we're going to use the dramatic one because that's what sells. But the news is designed, and media is designed to instill fear, right down to movies. Yeah. I mean, you talk to most people about alien abductions, the first thing that comes to their mind is probing.
Well, that's Hollywood. That's Hollywood, yeah.
They probe your dog at the vet. They're checking the temperature. I don't know. Is that the same thing?
Well, that's the assumption that we are animals to them, and then you have to prove intent, right? So so in order to determine like that, they could be, even if they are probing us, are they doing that to harm us? Or are they doing this to study us? Or are they doing this to help us? They see we don't have the intent, so it's uncomfortable. But you go to a doctor, and the doctor needs to test you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
they're doing it, but at least you have that conversation, and you're well aware of what they're checking for.
No,
so
the worst part is the lurking. I think if people, if they didn't come around when you're feeling the most vulnerable, and you're asleep, and you're supposed to be in your safe place, and they're coming in at night, that makes it really difficult. I think people would have difficulty with that. Whereas, coming in during the day. How many people have UFO sightings during the day? So why does this have to all happen at night? Amelia, that's what you want to add?
I was just going to say, sometimes we've heard our guests say that they're very sensitive to the light, and that's
right.
But we're getting different answers from different investigators. So it's really hard because we can't group everything together and say, yeah, this is definitely what's going on, because everybody's got a different response to that.
It's true. I just don't like the night visits. That's
the data too. So you got to collect data as well, like and do trends and stuff. So like this is just an example of a book that I have for UFOs, just to entertain the academics.
Right.
But as I measure the trends, I'm going to do the same for the ultra spectrum. I know with these UFO cases that come from pilots, there are some during the day, but that's also because they're up there, they're in the sky.
Oh, for sure. Them, right? But they're not taking you from your house during the day, is what I'm saying. Right. And that's right, so, Dave Petrella. I don't like needles. I don't like the needles. I don't blame you. That's a bit wiggy right there. The needles.
Yeah. Well.
Well,
it is a scary concept. This is me just trying to imagine from the experiencer perspective.
Sure.
Right? You're alone. This is kind of actually part of an article that I wrote for MUFON as well, when I was trying to explain shadow figures and that phenomenon to be similar to the alien abduction phenomenon, because the similarities are the sleep paralysis is present. You're unable to move. You have communication in your mind, and then all of a sudden, and like it's scary because you can't. Your brain doesn't comprehend what is happening, and if you're in some sort of groggy state for whatever technology or whatever they've administered to do whatever it is they need you to do, because they're not clear in clarifying what they're doing, and you're in your home, it will terrify anybody. And whether it's a ghost or an alien or a human being, there's still somebody in your house when you don't want them to be.
It's
in
intruder,
your house.
For sure.
Exactly.
For sure.
And so that's the constant. It's still illegal. It's a crime.
I know. Yeah.
And no wonder people are terrified. But they could still, with the missing time and all that other stuff too, they could be doing something positive.
They could.
But we don't know, because, like you said, mainstream media and the TV and everything, it makes us think that it's a bad and ugly thing.
But so do the abductees. And sorry, that last comment was Pedro's. I apologize, Pedro. So do the abductees. Some of them tell some pretty horrific tales. And there are others who have stories of wonderment and knowledge, and they're gifted with premonitions, and like it varies for everybody. What makes you think, why would one group of people with the same, let's use grays because they're the most common, I think, for people, why would one group have such horrific experiences and the others be just like, no, I had a pretty enlightening experience, actually.
As per set, and then we got to look into how they were raised, how what they like. Like there's so many things, and so many variables. But that's what I was trying to say is with the phenomenon, these are perceptions, these are archetypes, these are stereotypical groupings that are also entertaining. Halloween makes it fun as the only time to enjoy this stuff. The same stuff all of a sudden becomes fun because it's like a holiday.
It's always fun.
But you get what I'm saying. So, but when you break it down to the person, that like there's so I'll give you an example. In my research, the theory of the ancient astronaut or the ancient bloodline would be that are negative blood.
That's right. Yeah.
The research that I have with experiencers for this coming year, the majority blood type that was divulged was an A positive. So like it doesn't match with the legends unless that's changed or
no, it matches with some of the people I've worked with that are A positives. But I also know a whole slew of negatives who have had really intense experiences. So I don't know. I think it's just everybody, if you got something they want it.
Yeah, well, exactly. So we all have something we can help with each other too. We just need the intent.
Right.
If we can't get that, that's where the disclosure part comes in, because I'm also involved in the disclosure to understand the possibility that there may be something going on. I need to be aware of that. Because if aliens are coming, I need to be prepared to tell the world that everything's going to be okay. But but I'm not seeing that, and so is all this other stuff that's happening.
But the A positive thing is really interesting, and that's what you get primarily, right?
That's the highest trend right now. And now this is like, within the sample that I have, it's a small sample, but like, I mean, it's still, the point I was trying to make is it's not what mainstream has said. It's different.
No.
Doesn't mean, maybe the particular area in which I'm measuring only has a majority of that type of blood, but it still doesn't fit the norm. Majority of the people too also say it's positive experience. It's very few people think it's negative. I was surprised with that as well. There's not a lot of fear, and not as much fear anymore. Than not that I want them to be afraid. It's just like, well, geez, if you're not afraid, then that's good. Then, I'll take my time on your case.
Right.
I got to deal with the ones that are concerned right now because they don't know. They're trying to understand. They're trying to process. Plus, they believe. There's the spiritual beliefs too. And then if they believe it to be an angel because they're Christian. I'm not going to take that belief away from them. I just want to be like, it might not be an angel. It's just, it could be your higher self. It could be this, it could be that. And still kind of land in a place where this person is not afraid anymore, but still accepts the fact that they made contact. And then we can kind of wait a little bit to find out why they've made contact, which is why we're looking to a little bit more of their history and timeline and everything. And then be like, okay, cool. You're gifted. You've been selected for whatever purpose. You're not alone. It's not telling you to do bad things, so just embrace it, just enjoy it, just love it. And the deepest work is when those people are receiving the same messages in the same way, but they feel negative or they've been told to do negative things. And then we have to challenge mental health. Like, is it mental health? But that's also being ruled out. So when because like one person could have, like, that's the other thing too with the ufology community. And especially MUFON, like if you had any sign of mental health disorder at all, even sniffed it, they wouldn't touch it because they don't want that to come back and hurt the research in the academic way. It doesn't if you have a mental illness, you still have to deep dive into that to figure out if the symptoms match what you're experiencing, if the medication you're on even alters the type of vision,
Mhm.
whatever it is. There's so many things you can look at. So there's
Yeah, for sure.
you can very easily determine that yeah,
Mhm.
sure, there's a hindrance here, but it has nothing to do with the experience. And the other thing too with my research, because I've dealt so much with people that are afraid to come forward because they think that the mental health is going to discredit them. But there's people that don't have it, and there's people that do have it, and they're drawing or describing the same thing. So how how do you compare that? And there's that plot of saying, I know that you don't know this person, and like 2 hours ago they drew the same thing. How? Why? You guys were communicating to each other, not outer space. You were both meditating at the same time, and the message got delivered. Who knows when we meditate if we're connecting with each other, let alone outer space.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just want to rewind just a little bit. When you were
Yeah.
discussing how people don't have the fear of their experiences, do you believe that's got a lot to do with how we look at things? I mean, there are more television shows than there were even 10 years ago. There's more on TV, there's more on the internet, and there's a lot of groups that get together on the internet and compare experiences. Do you think that maybe this is what's helping it move and progress more than before? Because the fear of the unknown is always the greatest fear of all.
Yeah, talking about it definitely helps. Like there is more of it, and it allows more people, and shows like this, it allows more people to be comfortable to express. And if they are safe to talk about it and they're comfortable enough to accept not criticism but alternative thinking to try to understand what it may or may not be, then it's healthy conversation. It's healthy, and it's part of the healing, I guess. There's more of that. There's the media, and with the pandemic and everything, everyone going online, it's made it more accessible and things like that too. But here's the thing: it's not regulated. So it's easier, but it's also hard because these people are looking at us perhaps in this very moment for the answers, and it's very important that if we provide an answer on any of these things. You talk as if I am like I'm trying to cover all the angles because I don't know what piece of my message you're going to take and what I'm responsible for afterwards.
Well, when you're sitting with a couple million listeners plus, you want to make sure that the word, you get out what it is you need to get out, and that it's going to be taken the way it's meant to be taken. It's all perception.
And that's why I investigate everybody. Yeah, exactly. And I investigate every case one by one. It takes time. It takes longer. I don't rush it. The system allows me only to get best evidence. So like if it's like a conversation, then like I can redirect you to someone on our team that can have that conversation. But if you have evidence that I can actually like verify and do, then it kind of escalates in that sense. So we have this thing what's called Experiencers Anonymous. So it's a monthly thing that we do. The next one's September 18th. It starts at, I believe, 2 p.m. Eastern time, so 2 to 4. If you go to our website, tessacan.org and /EA, you can click and register for it. It's free. And the whole idea of that is if you don't like, because reporting is part of it. Some people like to report, you get a journal out of it, you get that experience. And the way my reporting system is set up is you might actually solve the case for yourself before you hit enter. And if that's fine, then I don't get it because you're like, you know what? I'm wasting this guy's time. I'm just going to go on and I figured it out, but it's still helpful. And some people don't like to do that because they don't know where the message is going. They don't know who they're sending it to. There's that fear of government and all this other stuff. So yeah, I'm a private investigator and I own my own agency, but I have confidentiality is like my job. So like I have no choice but to keep everything confidential. The report comes out. Yeah, I get it. It's in my hands. I take care of it. It's not in a database or anything like that. Right. But EA, Experiencers Anonymous, is the reverse end where you're not sure if you want to make a report. You're not sure what's going on. So you come to these private meetings, and it's like that AA or NA kind of philosophy where you just talk or you listen. other experiencers share. And the hope is that you'll hear something and be like, "It happened to me too," and then I'm not alone. And then you start talking about it, and then you would be encouraged to make a report for the research. But if you're not ready, then 2 or 3 more visits. Then as soon as you're comfortable, you're able to report. Because for me, I think the reporting part is part of the healing process too, because you're making it real. You're saying it out loud. You're putting it in print. You're reading it over, and then you're also thinking to yourself in that moment, yeah, I've checked all the dots. I've ruled all these things out. I can't get it. I trust this person. Like, and this could be for any reporting agency, or you guys as individuals, however you intake your cases. But you really want the experiencer to, rule that stuff out for themselves, because then you're going to get better data and all those other things too. So if I get a report first and it's a negative, as I mentioned before, the first thing I would do is I would refer them to EA. So go to EA now, talk, be within that community, listen. You have your camera off. You can do whatever you need to do. It's completely anonymous. I'm not allowed to be there. Journalists aren't allowed to be there. We put in precautions to make sure it's not recorded or anything. It's completely safe. And then if you feel the need to, then after that, I can do the investigation. And also when you get into like healing things like regression or Reiki or any of the pseudosciences for therapy, pseudomedicines and whatnot, I like to use those as a tool. I'm not really a fan of regression unless I've got to the end and there's absolutely no other lead I can follow, and I just kind of need you to unlock the brain. But I have to also take in consideration that once it's unlocked, it's like there's no way I can.
That's true.
Go back.
That's not an option for everyone.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I want to get everything up to that and do that as a last resort. Mm-hmm. Some people want to jump into it right away. It's like, well, no, I need to measure you. Lack of a better way to describe this, I need to measure you broken before I measure you fixed.
That's actually a good way to put it. Because people really are broken.
Yeah, and then they go out and they get it. That's part of it. And then now make the report again, and then we do a compare and contrast where it's like, okay, this is how you felt. And then EA is the same. If you have anxiety and stress and PTSD from all these other things, whether it's a ghost alien or not, like it's still intrusive, it's still scary. You want to remove those. Absolutely. So that way me as the investigator can investigate without the emotion. And that's why I'm not at EA, because if I'm at EA and I see them crying and I see them upset and I see them involved, that's going to affect my investigation. I'm going to want to tell them what they want to hear because I don't want them to be upset because I care. But as we have these procedures in place, where I'm able to do my investigation without that, but I have them I know that the emotions are being taken care of. And I put that in place because I've realized that some people report to me and I'll do my investigation the way I do it, but there was no bedside manner, so they took offense to it if I was questioning in a certain way. So if they've been at least receiving some sort of treatment to help, to assist, some aid, and then they come back and they have a better understanding of why I'm asking these questions, so they're not so defensive. Right. Actually, or they might realize that, you know what, I was just having a bad day. I lost this, I lost that. And then all of a sudden my light flickered. But that's important too, because the emotion could be part of that psychic phenomenon too. Maybe the emotion caused the lights to flicker. It wasn't a ghost. It's very emotional and mad that day. My wife is very spiritual, and every time she's mad and the lights flicker, I'm like, just tone it down a bit.
Whoa, down, girl! So don't hurt me.
Not that she's mad, but I mean when she's emotional. But like, there's that effect. There's that immediate.
But we're emotional as females, emotional creatures. It's entirely different. But
that bubble, like I can feel when she does her Reiki, like in another part of the house. Like I got to come down and be like, you want to like turn it down a little bit? I'm kind of like I can't concentrate because it's so powerful.
You're so loud. Stop it. Yeah.
But that's us. That's not ET. That's not ghosts.
That's us. We're people. Ryan, it's easier. Through the years of helping people, it's easier for someone to accept that there's a malevolent, non-human entity in their space than it is for them to accept that they are powerful beings that can project energy. If I say you have telekinesis or psychokinesis, most of the time I'll say, I think you should Google it to get a better understanding of it, to see if you see anything in there that you can recognize. I think it's a gentler way of saying there is nothing there. This is you.
Yeah. It's hard to accept that it's you, though, because you don't believe that you can do that.
And that's
They
with a
don't.
lot of things in this world.
It's
Our
true.
self-esteem is very low on
Yeah.
the whole. And the test of philosophy, too, is to just remind you that you are not alone. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be strange. It's because you're not the only one. And if we were to bring everybody together, and what are they telling us to do? Good things.
Yeah.
Right? And if we do good things together, like as an example, like monks, if they get together and they meditate and they do the Om at the same frequency, at the same time, they're able to levitate heavy objects.
Yes.
Strength in numbers. So if I, with my research, my hope is with the psychic connection is to, in order to prove it once and for all, is to find a lot of people that have that ability, bring them all to our expo in October, which is called Interconnected UFO and Paranormal Retreat. So the whole idea of that is to have the experiencers not learn to get lectures and stuff, to actually like participate in tarot or in Reiki, and actually get you or develop their abilities or do little training exercises to encourage the academy, the kind of X-Men philosophy, as someone recently thought I was doing. But we want them to empower and trust themselves and be able to do good things.
I think a lot of people are afraid of being reported to the government and what happens from there when you have an experience. I think that's a big issue. That's what I'm hearing.
Not everybody, though.
But I think a lot of people are afraid of that because they see that, again, Hollywood. They see that government agency coming in, MIB and all this other stuff. So I think a lot of, from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, they just need to be able to trust who they're going to. That they're not.
But Canada's a bit different too. I would think.
Canada is different, but I'm sure
we don't have
different cases.
We do have some MIB cases where people are being followed and things like that too. But then there's like a paranoia around whether or not they're typically following you or they're just there and you're heightened alert because of everything else going on.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think of the why, like what exactly, like MK Ultra, like we had that in Canada too.
True.
Operation Paperclip, where they took all the German scientists in the States. We did that too in Canada. It's called Project Matchbook. We also have German engineers creating technology, and we have Canada actually has to fill out what's called a service document. So every time there's a UFO report in Canada, we have to fill this document to inform the United States that whatever this was here. So the states need to know that that's happening here, and we let them know. So there's some sort of no border kind of like North American control here, but like I can understand how they're afraid, and they will continue to be afraid. And when they're ready, they're ready. We can't force that. And it's the experiencers who have already done that, that set the example of what can be done. And that's why when I'm going to produce books and put things out that show the work or show the results of making the report, to kind of show that, hey, this is what I'm doing with the work. If that works for you, then you can do that. And if you report to me, you should report to you guys, report to as many people as you want as the experiencer, collect all of their analysis, and then just sit down and decide for yourself, which one, which religion do I want to subscribe to, because yourself, what you're experiencing. But what I don't want anyone doing is holding it in, because that could be like, if we were to compare that to the same thing as, say, you stole something and you feel really bad and you want to tell someone, but you keep it in, it still affects you. So just get it out, confess, do whatever, talk about it, get it out. Right. And then start to feel better. And if they feel better, then they'll talk about it more, and we'll learn more about it, and we'll understand it. And then the next level as I mentioned earlier, is to test the ability in a controlled way to enhance it, and not have us feel like animals. Like the academics always want to be like, oh, you can move objects, come over to my lab and put on this science thing here, and I want to do all these things to see how you do that, and I want to
scientists, government,
cut you up in a million pieces and see how I can be like that because I want all the power. I want to know how you can do that because I can understand. Because if I learn how you can do it, the next person that makes a report about it, I can connect. I can matchmake. You know what? Hey, you're starting at an early age with some psychic ability. This person I have a relationship with and is a little bit more advanced, and I can trust them. Why don't you talk to them, and then you guys can develop your abilities together. And everybody does this, I'm sure. And it's just the way that I'm trying to regulate it.
You're networking. You're
right.
allowing people to work with who are experiencers to work together, which is pretty interesting.
I don't need to have 100 people on the academics.
Yeah.
I need to have 100,000 experiencers who are working together, because it's them that has this experience. I'm not having these experiences, but I'm intrigued enough because the data shows me that something is happening, and I'm curious. And if you guys matchmake and you work together, and I see that in real time, and I can study that and analyze that, then over time, if we can control things with our mind, then let's just do it for good. If we can let's change the world. And maybe we're able to do that. And these government side projects are in place because majority of us have negative thinking, and great power, great responsibility. There's got to be a balance too, right?
Well, I think if you're communicating with extraterrestrials, that it is about being positive, right? Sorry, Amelia. We kind of went in at the same time there.
That's okay. I was just going to say, I think a lot of people with abilities are again, just like experiencers, very afraid to come forward because of what could happen. And it's not even Hollywood in this sense, because it has happened to many people. Where they've been used and abused and removed from their families. So a lot of people are going to keep that to themselves, right?
That's true.
And when they make reports to us, they have the option to choose anonymity.
That's important to put that out there. Yeah.
So, we also ask them what exactly it is they want us to do. So we're making sure we're giving them the right result. Some people are like, just log it, just categorize it. I'm used to this stuff, but I just thought I'd give it to you because I like your research and chart it. Other people be like, hey, come to my house. And it's like, I need to spend some time with you first before I spend the money to go down and come to your house. And what am I looking for? Because it's actually to go back to what we were talking about earlier about daytime and nighttime sightings. What about winter? A lot of ghosts could still exist in the middle of winter. UFO, people just don't go outside in the winter.
24/7. Yeah.
People just don't go outside in the winter.
You can capture ghosts during the day.
Of course. I know that. It's just the hobbyists, the people that are doing this for a thrill, that are on, that are doing the ghost adventures. That's entertainment.
Out of all of these people that you've interviewed, what is the most prominent species that they're talking about that seems to make the most appearances or the most abductions, contact?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I'm also trying to reclassify them as well, because that subspecies and all that. So what's common is some reptile-looking creature wearing a cloak. This cloak seems to be this common thing between. So I'm seeing some paranormal entities, but with a cloak, like a shadow. They're described as a shadow figure, but when drawn, they have a cloak.
I had a case similar to that.
Yeah, and then there's some aliens, reptilians, as they're described, but when they draw it, they're wearing a cloak. They don't mention it in the report, but when they draw it too, that's part of it. That recreation. That's another thing we do too, is because with PI and stuff, we often recreate events or crime scenes and things to understand how it happened. So I recreate their experience to put myself in their shoes to kind of get all these little things, and part of that is drawing what they see, and that's those the things I'm seeing is these details, these fingers, the points, like there's specific details about the hands that are common. The faces are sometimes different because you don't usually see them. It's like whatever they see as they're reaching out. But this cloak is interesting because depending on what you can see, maybe this cloak, maybe they just got a really good close up of a shadow figure, and maybe there are no shadow figures. Maybe they're all cloaked, and then it's just a distance thing, or a sleep state. That's a variable that's affecting, what they're seeing at the time. I'm not seeing little gray aliens. I'm not seeing.
Oh, you don't see the grays, are you?
Well, like I'm not, like it's not popular. Like the stereotypical stuff that I'm seeing that I'm getting from reports I've never seen on TV. Like, so it's and I like that because it's like if I get a picture of I would say sometimes I get a little gray alien, but like there'll be like a detail on them that's odd. So, like they'd have like 6 fingers instead of the stereotypical 3. So why do they, so there's just tiny little details that don't make any sense. That kind of makes me think.
I've actually heard about that. Yeah.
You've seen something that's not normal. And also with contactee and abductees, I'm getting information about not what the crafts look like from the outside, what they look like from the inside, and how they operate and how they move. And I know through their reporting system that like after this comes through investigation, a preliminary report doesn't do a deep dive, but then it's like, you've divulged to me that you're uneducated and you stay, you're taking care of your family at home and you have nothing to lose. That's what you put as your answer for what makes you credible. And I like that answer too. It just like, I like the honesty, right? Because like I don't want to hear that I wrote a book and I'm lectured in 100 places, so therefore I'm credible. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear I got nothing else to lose. I'm not crazy. All those other things. So that kind of they've set that precedent already. That they've indicated that to me. So okay, great. You're busy at home. You're taking care of your family. You're uneducated, as you divulged. How do you understand quantum mechanics? How do you understand technology and space travel and all these other things that you're describing to me through these drawings? So where does that come from? Because I've seen every X-File. I've seen every Star Trek. I've seen every Stargate. I've seen every, all these shows, and I haven't seen anything like that. So where are you getting that from? And how much of that is imagination? None of that is even remotely close to what we're seeing on TV. So it's like I'm really focused on that because it's like, that's odd.
That is. I think it's the similarities. I think, you're really onto something when you have different people coming up with the same information, which is also very helpful.
That's what makes it strong too.
And binds it together.
And what I'm really trying to do is create this scientific platform where paranormal investigators and researchers can actually be at the table in the science community a little bit better. And then I would take that role where I would need to communicate to the UFO people to be like, no, this is what they mean by that. Like we're actually the smart ones in this case. Like the academics in UFO are so smart that they're dumb. Like they totally cannot connect the fact that the word paranormal means nothing, something that is not normal. And
that's right.
Technically, an unidentified flying object is not normal, and therefore it's paranormal. And I don't necessarily I don't like calling myself a ufologist, but it's just there to be in that circle. But I'm not really proud of being somebody who spent a lot of time investigating things that no one has ever captured or it exists. So people make these careers and they boast about being famous about something that they can't identify. Like you spend all this time in research and you don't know what it is.
No, it's all speculation. It's all theory.
Which makes it paranormal.
That's right.
I know. So like I've been in situations in the past where I've spoken at a UFO conference. I mentioned paranormal and they're like, no, get out of here. Don't even mention that. Boo,
that's true, but there is a connection.
I go to a paranormal conference and I say, hey, you guys want to talk about UFOs? And they're like, yeah.
I know. Because they realize there's a connection. Ufologists don't want to necessarily realize that there's
they like the government conspiracies. And these are also the type of people that, think they pay too much for taxes, don't like
don't we all?
politicians. And,
yeah.
I know I pay too much. Just saying.
There's a type of person that are in this. There's not a lot of females in ufology, a lot of females in paranormal. Why? Because it's sensitive, it's emotion, it's feelings. You know, you can't.
The male mediums right now are hating you, but yeah.
Well,
they're actually a bigger group now, but I'm gonna put it out there. I find them a little bit more difficult to work with.
We're starting to get females in the ufology community too, and I'm happy about that too. But also they're also doing it as a marketing plunge too. So it's kind of it's all up in the play. But let's just, if I can, let's just dial back a little bit and say that I'm grateful for all the experiences that have been reported to me, because I wouldn't be able to sit here and have this conversation if it wasn't for them. And I really appreciate anyone, yourselves included, anyone who takes the time to listen to someone and help them get through it, regardless of what we think it is. We're in this together, and thank you guys for your service, because this is service work that we're doing.
I think the idea of providing a platform, many of our guests are at the top of their fields, that come in, and the idea of any radio show should be to provide a platform to get relevant information out. We're very specific about, people who we like on the show. Sometimes it's a lot more laid back. Sometimes it's really, deep and emotional. Sometimes it's very science-based. But at the end of it all, we want our listeners to get the very best information from the very best people who are out there. So, we appreciate you joining us tonight also.
Well, you invited me, so I appreciate the invite. And this is a reschedule too, so thank you so much for accommodating that as well.
Oh my gosh, it's a pleasure. I have a few questions for you, right? Because I these are questions that I ask everyone who comes on when they're talking about things. Through your experiences with these contactees or abductees and your interviews, is there a commonality when it comes to their experience? Is there stuff that you see often that's like, oh, okay, this is happening every single time or a majority of the time?
Are we talking in the whole, or are we talking about a specific
in a whole? What do you see more often than anything for experiencers?
I'm seeing, again, positive from what I can remember, positive experience. I'm seeing afternoon, twilight kind of hours, not deep in the night. I'm just trying to visualize my columns in my mind here. I'm seeing, as far as the trends go, a lot of people are in that. Are multiple experiences, so it's not just one event, which helps give more data too. I'm seeing again the A+ blood type as being a common trend. I'm seeing now there's a large majority in Ontario, then that's because I'm in Ontario and that's where I've marketed the most, so I have a feeling that's why that table's high, because that's where I am. But as I get more cases globally, hopefully I'll be able to get some specific hot spots. But Ontario does have a large population too. So
we're more than half of the population of Canada in Ontario.
So there's that factor in play as well. I'm seeing on most of the events too, now that I'm adding in my what I have on my website is called a visual evidence display, which is a map that once I finished a case and I can't identify it, I put it on the website for others to see, and maybe they can identify or help me if they choose to. Excuse me. I'm seeing now, because I plot the government files that I get, the declassified documents. I'm plotting the UFO cases from civilian. I'm plotting the paranormal. I'm plotting the abductees and contactees. But I'm starting to notice the proximity is very close to the Ottawa River kind of area, which if you go back in time, this is where the Rockcliffe base is for Ottawa. We have North Bay, the canal, and all this other stuff too. So there's a lot of people living in those areas near military bases. So is that because that's where it's being housed? If you go back in history, that's the first base, like Kingston and all that area, it's all there. So there's a bit of a geographical commonality there. Water sources. This is another thing too. A lot of them are near water sources, especially the UFO. That I'm starting to think that maybe they're not in the sky, they're in the water. You know,
Like Niagara Falls, the gorge.
Yeah.
Can I
we
read you
see
a
lots
question?
here in Niagara. Let me
Can
tell
I
you
read-
what,
Can
regularly.
Sorry, can I read you a question from the chat room? I know
Yeah.
you can see it as well.
But
Zachman,
I don't have it open, so I'm
okay, that's cool. So Zachman says, I have a question for Ryan. When is he interviewing a contactee? When he is interviewing a contactee, rather, does he have a list of criteria that he looks for? Okay. When analyzing their experience, if so, what would those be? Sorry, it moved up as I was reading.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So that's a good question. My interview process is different. So like I would never start with my preliminary with a conversation unless it was like I'm there for a purpose and I need to something happened. Like it's like a crisis. I need to get the information real quick. I'll pull it together. A lot of my work is done through that report. So that report will come in first, and then I'll be able to. The way that my reporting system is designed is, again, if you go through the questions and ask, and it's also conditional logic. So if you're reporting a paranormal case and you select at the beginning, you're not going to get the UFO questions. You're just going to get the paranormal and specific. So it kind of splits it up. So it's easier for you to kind of walk through the event and relive the event and remember specific details. So my reporting thing, my system, if you want to get a good idea, so tessacan.org/reporting system, or actually on the website, the tessacan.org, scroll down, the reporting system's there, and then you can kind of get a gauge with those questions. So those would be the same questions I would ask in person. So if I was in person and I didn't have the ability to get that in front, I'd pull out my phone, I'd open up that app, and I start asking the same questions. Now, if there's a little bit of a tactic, once the investigations are done, I have a podcast that's Beyond the Tinfoil Hat that airs every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Our guests right now are also people in the field that we're trying to understand, what support they provide experiencers. So we kind of build a referral system. Like after we've done the investigation, but they still have anxiety and things, and we want to cure that. So we want to make connections on that. So we use that platform to introduce our experiencers to that. But what I'm hoping to do at some point as the final stage for some of these investigations is bring the experiencers on at that point when they're comfortable. And then we have a conversation about the experience and the investigation. And that becomes the video testimony, which is also evidence, but that's also after all the preliminary stuff is done. A lot of it, and that's the way an investigation is really done. That's why I'm a private investigator. It's all done. It's not meant to be like, hey, this guy or this girl has this thing. Let's all bring them over. Let's bring all the cameras. Let's put all the lights on them.
There's a methodology to it.
Right?
Yeah.
So by the time I get to that, it's like, okay, so I need you to show me where this happened. If I'm going to meet you in person, okay, I need you to move this object. I need to understand what you're doing. Just do it, right? Like so I don't do it that way like everyone else is, because most people are trained wrong. They're trained to get the information first because they're trying to formulate an opinion, and they're specifically looking for an answer that's going to give them a result that they need to obtain for whoever they're working for. I, on the other hand, am actually genuinely trying to understand all of it, so I hope that answered the question, but like, it's not, I don't do that. I'm not, and it's not successful. It doesn't work. And in the private investigating community in the world, if I'm doing an interrogation, you don't know until it's too late. So like it's a lot of it's behind the scenes. And if I really had a suspicion that you were lying to me, I don't think I would really need to do that interview. It's more so it doesn't matter if you're lying to me or not. It's so more so matters if you're in pain or you're suffering. So if I think that you're lying, you don't need to know that, but let's cure the symptoms. You feel better? Great. I have no idea what it is. You don't have no idea what it is, but carry on and have a good day. I don't need to say you're a liar or do any intense things like that. It's just, but it's still data because because I feel like they're being deceptive on some of the things, because some of these people like to report to me because they think that they're going to get on TV or they're going to get somewhere. They're doing it too because they want to be part of it. It's, they don't get that. And part of that reporting system, you'll learn that. And which is why I don't get anyone that's not serious.
Mm-hmm.
Less is more. And I only need to find one person. We only need to capture one alien, one ghost collectively. Somebody has to do it. We don't need to have a million of them. So what this research does is it tells me where to look. So if a specific grouping on my map says that in this particular town, a majority of the people, are seeing this type of being, well, then I'm going to go there and do field work. And that's the other part that these investigators don't do, is the field work. They collect the data and they talk science, but they don't put boots on the ground to go and test their hypothesis.
We're just going to do, a quick station of sponsor ID, and then we're going to come back with a question.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay,
You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and myself, Amelia Pisano. Tonight's special guest is Ryan Stacey, fellow Canadian. We're talking UFOs and experiencers and contactees. If you missed it up until now, don't worry, we're on archive. We are live in the gorgeous city of New Orleans on 105.3 FM radio, streaming for you, not on UFO Paranormal Radio tonight, but UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials, International Public Radio, and soon in coming back, UPRN Talk Radio. Tonight and every night, it's fully sponsored by the great people at Folgers Coffee. Folgers, we love you. Thank you so much for supporting us. I wanted to ask you, Ryan, this is something that I ask everyone because I'm so curious about this. Do you see a difference in between, like in the United States, we'll hear about government experiences, right? Like if somebody's pulled up with a car, that's probably a government putting that implanting in you, or an implant for that matter is more of a government thing, not so much an ET. Is that happening in Canada as well?
Well, I don't just get Canadian cases. I do get cases from the States.
About here.
So I don't have the data in front of me to go specific in the distance, but I do remember a case, I think it's Ontario, where similar things like that do happen.
Okay.
The implantation, like that's another thing that MUFON always done wrong. They would encourage people to take it out and mail it to them. That is the worst thing, because first of all, you don't want to hurt. Most people don't know how to surgically remove something, and as soon as you touch it, you tamper with the forensic evidence. So it's like I had a bird when I gave them a hard time.
That's Canadian. I had a bird. That's very Ontario.
Okay.
Let me tell you.
All right. So again, we have to capture one to analyze it, to know where it's coming from. Could it come from the government? Like probability and likely, it's more likely that a human had implanted it because we know how to do that. We have the possession and the ability to do so. Why would they do it? Again, we need to figure out what the implant is there for, what it does, and what it's actually doing. So we need to recover it and study it and analyze it. The cases that I hear is that they've had them taken out, but then the doctor threw it out in the garbage. So was the doctor in on it, or the doctors thought it was just a foreign object? There's never an investigator involved. So you have something like that, and it's serious, and you can prove it to me, like over the internet and things like that, where I'm satisfied and there's a budget somewhere to get me to come and follow you and babysit you. I'll go in as a PI and be like, I'm with you, so I can retrieve the object. But the likelihood,
they would have tested implants. There are people out there who've had implants removed.
Yeah, but where did they come from? How did they go? There's doctors that are paid to say certain things.
Right.
Look at the information we get in the news today. How many of those things are paid? We don't know. So is it government? It could be. Is it like why? Why would certain persons need to be tracked, and for what reason? So I don't find it likely. But some people still experience these phenomena, and I don't discount them. It's just I've just never been able to have enough evidence provided to me to study, and that's another thing that I'm doing. So I'm creating, it's in development too. It's called Interstellar, the Academy of Ufology and Paranormal Studies, where I want to teach people how to investigate for themselves. So the other thing too is if you make a report, to talk about how I do things backwards too, I don't need to go to your house and take photographs to investigate. You can do that. I just tell you, if I need photographs, I will tell you to go to the room and take daylight photos and send them to me. You will be the investigator. You will research this yourself. Because if I involve you with the process and we come to a conclusion that it's something known, guess what? You're not going to report that same thing to me anymore. And the next time you report, it'll be something new. And then we weed that out until we get something we both can't explain. And then maybe if I need to come to your property and things like that too, if we get into, now crossing into possession and things like that too, but take a chill pill and relax, and then and then if you still feel demonic, then we have resources and things like that too. So did I answer the question?
Yeah,
okay,
thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to
Comment?
read the comment.
Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
from
Go
Mary
ahead. I'll go
Gigas.
after you. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm in Trenton, Ontario. There was a reported unreported sighting a few weeks ago. Trenton Air Base is small but mighty. Even they said it's unexplained. Oh, thank you for sharing that, Mary.
That's an active area out that neck of the woods going out towards
Trenton,
the east for sure.
Was it like on global news? Like was it on news?
I don't
Mary?
know. Can you answer us, Mary, if you're still there? Thanks. I'll read
Because
it out.
I track
yes,
UFO
Dreams have been rampant. There we
UFO
go.
sightings as well so the Canadian government does email me nightly accident reports. So if I checked the one tonight, so nothing came up. So I don't recall anything from Trenton specifically. So it might not be near someone might not have called it in. I don't know.
No. She did say my alien dreams have been rampant.
Rampant.
Sorry,
Rampant.
I can't see anything
Rampant.
even with my glasses
Yes.
lately. I just like looking, going, what the heck? Sorry,
Which is
Mary.
also, very common
Very
to have
common.
the dreams or downloads, or that's pretty common.
Mary, if you're you're still there, obviously, because you're typing. Can you let us know where you heard the news for Trenton?
Yeah, because I might be able to find something I'd be interested in, and then I can provide a proper analysis.
So here you are, investigating everybody else's cases and experiences. Are you an abductee contactee experiencer?
I wasn't going to avoid that one, were we? Okay.
No. Share it. I got to share it.
So I don't know.
Oh, all right.
I'm with you. I understand that.
Likely, or probably, but not likely. I don't know. I'm trying to determine that.
Right.
If I were to categorize it or compare to a phenomenon, it would be a download, a psychogenic event. So I'll explain. It was kind of in the middle of like when I was like, I knew MUFON was like just doing it for money, and MUFON was like rejecting all the experiencers, and like no one was getting the help that they thought. And I didn't want to quit because I was in it for the people. So I did whatever I could to stay for the people as long as I could. And that's why I got pushed out, because there was bylaws and things, and being the legal guy that I am, legal, it was very hard for them to legally remove me unless they made a public opinion, and they wouldn't do that because it would hurt their reputation by confessing that, well, Jan Harzan had done what he had done earlier. I was the one. I was one of the people who kind of So, anyways, when I come out of that, I kind of got pushed out. I was mad. I didn't know what to do, and I just didn't know how I could help, because they deleted me, they ghosted me. I'd done 1,300 cases. So I was really in a, like, and all that got deleted. So that journal beside me there, that's the only piece of evidence that I have that can prove that I worked for MUFON. They got rid of me. If I didn't have that, my story, and you telling me that I'm the former this, former that, they'll deny it. And they have been. So like, that's why it's in my bio. That's why I have to talk about it, because it's the only thing, you know, that exists. And plus the people that still follow me through. So during that time, I was really stressed and was really away from work, and in this dream state, in this wake state, kind of like halfway between the time I'm supposed to wake up and whatever, I start seeing like an old movie picture, like of these images, this one image just flashing in my eyes and stuff. And I just couldn't get it out of my head. And I wasn't able to get it in my head. And I was just stressed thinking, I was like, I don't know what this means. Like, why is this doing this? Where is this coming from? There's a tone in my ear, things like that. And then I had to get to, like, I tried to draw it and the drawing wouldn't work. You could still see it because I couldn't draw it. And then when I got home, I was still bothered by it. I was like, I gotta, like, I'm a graphic artist. I can figure this out. Let me just go to the computer and let me just get this out, because I don't know why I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop. And then I remember starting and I remember finishing. I don't remember creating it. So there was like, so I started with this black picture, and then when I was done, I was actually, it's this logo right here on my shirt.
Cool.
Very cool.
Wow.
So this,
you lost time, right?
well, I just, it's, you know, I might have been focused or whatever.
Right.
So this is what I call the map, the Tessa map. So at this time, Tessa wasn't even a thing.
Right.
As you can see, it says Tessa here on the wheel, and as I would look at it, and I would think, and I would ponder, and be like, and then all of a sudden the Experience Your Support Association popped up in my head, and I was just like, TSA, well, that's weird, you know, Experiencers Anonymous, EA, you know, like everything started to come from that, but it would start with the tone and things like that too. So I'm starting to realize that as I focus on this symbol, as I meditate on, like I don't meditate, but as I focus on it or reflect on it, whenever I need to make a decision for Tessa, it helps me. And there's a lot of symbol. I have this, I'll be putting it on the website at one point for people to look at, but I'm still trying to understand it myself. But when I break it down, I'm unable it's okay. I'm unable to determine if these are, if this is a spoke, a cog, a wheel, or a table, and there's chairs.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because Dave Petrella in Facebook is actually telling you what that is.
No, what's he saying there?
He's actually going to be on our show.
I can't see his comment. What's he saying?
He said that's the zodiac, brother, plus the cardinal directions and cross quarter as well.
Yeah, so
He's
those
very
symbols
much
are
into astrology. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this symbol is for the people. I don't think it's for me.
You've got the yin and yang in the middle as well.
That
And like
duality.
Michelle said, from here, that looks like a Templar cross.
It is a Templar. So I've been able to break it apart. There's a Sumerian.
That's what I said.
Sumerian symbol there. This is the
yin and the yang.
The yin and the yang.
I wish I had a better picture to show you than my shirt, but like there's the
great.
King Steel of Solomon, and they all have different meanings. The colors mean things. There's Masonic symbols. There's also the elements too, and then the Eastern stars. So there's a whole bunch of things. I'm a Mason, so like there's like some of this, like that's what we're trying to think. Maybe this was just my subconscious just trying to put everything together. But then these colors and these symbols on these chairs, as I'm calling them, they matched characteristics of people that I was looking for. And then, and as far as I recruited, I didn't recruit just people. Hey, I want to be a part of Tessa. Why? Well, then that's part of a recruiting process. But then it's like, I'm finding out later on that they matched the characteristics on this based on the symbolism from the color and the shapes and all that other stuff. So I'm like, that's weird. So maybe these are chairs. And then maybe my role is to fill these chairs. And then I got 7 chairs that are black that have symbols that represent the liberal arts of science. So it's the 7 liberal arts of science. And then I have 5 colorful symbols which represent the elements. And they also, elements in the descriptions match with certain healings like Reiki and regression and dowsing. And so it's kind of weird how this is all connected. So this never came with a manual. It's just me trying to understand, and all these things are starting to connect, and I've journaled to try to figure it out too. And when EA came about me too, that was a kind of another little bit of a, I ended up drawing it on my drywall when I was just doing it. I was like, what? Never mind. I'll deal with that later. So I kind of get these little intrusions, and that's where this uninvited, invited, psychogenic kind of element came from. So I'm trying to understand: is this divine, or is this my higher self? Is this my brain compartmentalizing a stressful environment? Am I just smart and curious and just inventing these things on my own, or am I getting, a direct call from the CEO? Like where, how do we interpret that? And so by technically, because I don't have enough evidence to disprove it, I am an experiencer by definition, because I've made contact with something, I've drawn something that came to me in an ominous way that I'm starting to make sense of it. But here's the other strange thing is this is two-dimensional. Using the rule of threes, I've created this in 3 dimensions. And by creating it in 3 dimensions, it looks like a UFO on top of a black pyramid. And currently, like it's and then if I separate it, I don't know if you can really see it in layers, but it's more so something in front of a portal above a pyramid. So like there's that 3-dimensional element. And then when I tried to build it, I built 2 copies of it, and I put them together to see it in 4th dimension. I started to realize that it looks very similar to the Makurba or Mekaba, the vessel. So as I was saying, with the information coming from all over the place, I'm stressed, I'm thinking, I'm relaxed, I'm driving, I'm focusing, and I'm like just really trying to remember this image. And I get home and I put it out and I can finally relax. And then I'm interpreting it, and all of a sudden geometrically it's making it makes stuff in all dimensions. So I know that it's powerful. I know that it means something, but I don't think it's for me. I think it's meant to show and to express, and I feel like it's going to bring everyone together. And then with that mindset, whether that's the divine intention or my actual persona behind this project, bringing people together is my mission. And whether that was my idea or the great power above, it doesn't matter. It's not a bad idea.
I think there are a lot of different species of ET that want to see humankind evolve and awaken, and I think they do work through people, much like your experience. Downloads, I've had them myself. I know a lot of people who have reached out and said, hey, this has happened. I think, if they can't disclose properly, because the governments of the world won't, maybe, just maybe, they will start doing it through individuals. If individuals can get over their fears, then maybe they will start seeing messages that
and I'm getting more comfortable talking about it too. And to be completely honest, because there is that stigma too, where it's like, hey, I don't want to lose my job. So like, I want to set that example. I own and operate my own company. I'm a private investigator. And I'm coming out with this. It can be done. But like, I was really, really having a hard time understanding the psychic connection prior to this. So if this didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be able to be so passionate and relatable to those who are experiencing the psychic phenomenon, because I couldn't get it. I couldn't understand how they were doing it. And then now I was able to dumb it down on my classification system and to make sense for myself, realizing that, I'm not the only one, in that sense too. But it's like, it's almost, if it was divine or intentional, they had to like scare me to so I could move forward in the next direction, because I can't go back. I can't go back to not trusting this vision, and by trusting it, good things have happened. And it, it's a symbol of power. It's a symbol of things for me, and
awakening.
Yeah, like, I mean, nothing bad has ever come from it, and and I mean, it could be a sigil, it could be a ward, it could be protection. Like, it's very powerful having it here. Plus it could be a portal of something. Who knows? But I think someone knows. Someone might see it and be like, I saw that too, and then here we go. Right?
Actually, Ryan, it's funny that you said that, because Dave Petrella wrote is there somewhere we can see the symbol up close? I'll show you the whole model, Ryan.
So I've been meaning to put it on the website. I haven't done it yet. Can I share my screen?
We see your screen.
Well, hold on.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. If we're
I
gonna
don't.
be able-
I don't think
If
so.
we would have to have arranged for that ahead of time, and then we'd be able
Yeah.
to show anything you wanted.
Well, it says that I can. So I'm going to click the button, and then if I can, then you can see it right now.
Dave
Okay.
says there's 12 petals on
share
the
the
heart
screen.
chakra.
Yeah, share the screen. Okay, give it a whirl.
And then I'll show you. There's the image. You just let that in there on your screen. Because I'm in the show.
We can't
We
do
have
that.
a
The
producer. Yeah,
has
we're
to do
not.
that.
We're not at the helm on this one.
No.
Okay, so you can't really see that. Okay, so then what I'll do is, like, I've been meaning to put it on the website. So, or if you private message me, I'm on Facebook. So facebook.com/heed the world. So HEED the world, which means watch the world. And just tell me you want to see the symbol, and I'll send it to you.
Yeah. We also have all your info on our Facebook group page. So if you're already part of the Outer Realm, it will be there.
Okay, I did like the page. I think should be there, but anyways.
You better.
Well, like, I had
Good
to find
idea.
it.
That way you can get
I had
tagged.
to find it. You did tag me, so I think I'm in that circle now.
We have another question from Wayne Mellows.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you please ask Ryan if he knows of any crop circles that look similar to your design? Great question. I love
That's a
those
good question. I've never looked, actually. I never thought. See, this is what I was trying to say. The symbol isn't for me; it's for somebody else, and that's a very good line of thinking. And it could be something. But how would I Google a crop circle that looks like this flying machine triangle looking thing?
Well, I think there's
You would
a
just have
way
to go
of doing that,
peruse the
right? Where you
pictures.
have to, you can.
So I've done a Google
You can
image,
take a
like-
picture. Yeah.
I've done that. Nothing comes up. That was the first
Oh.
thing I did. I was like, "What is this?
Okay.
Where did it come from? Like, who did I
It might
rip
not
off?
be-
Like,
It
what
might
is
not be
this?"
on the internet. Maybe you need to connect
But
with
if
someone
you-
who actually investigates crop circles.
Well, here's the other thing too. Is like when I thought that the triangle was a pyramid in 3D, I didn't think pyramid until I made it in 3D. And I was like, well, why is the pyramid black? The pyramids in Egypt are not black. And then I Googled it, and then there's black pyramids in Antarctica. So I'm like, whoa, okay,
There's
hold
black
on.
pyramid.
There's a whole
So
other
let's-
story.
So Luxor in
Antarctica.
Vegas is based
It-
on a black pyramid.
It used
So,
to, that's
yes,
right.
there
And then
is-
after further history, but I didn't know that until I started to unlock and learn all these things as I'm discovering it, right? So it's just like, so that was also reassurance that I didn't know to myself that I didn't know this information. So where is it coming from? So the crop circle, I want to say that I've probably seen something that looks like it, to be completely honest. I never thought. And then, like, what is the point of a crop circle, though? Like, 'cause some people make them. This is interesting too about the crop circles. A lot of people, because you can hoax those, and then,
Yeah.
but here's a new study and a new research that I've recently heard, and I'm kind of like thinking, hey, you know what? It might be a stretch, but it also might be possible. But then the UFO community would have to accept the paranormal community.
Good luck.
They're
Good
saying
luck.
that they're in trances and they're being telepathically communicated while they're manually making these things.
Hey, there's a good.
So you know what? Maybe
It's a good theory.
like, where did they get the idea for the map, and how do they see what it looks like above? Like, how do you
sure.
orchestrate that unless you're being controlled through your mind?
Or showed
And
telepathic images, you know.
And how many crop circles are out there that we haven't seen because somebody hasn't walked out into a field or hasn't, had an aerial view? There's who knows how many have been created without us even knowing.
And how many farmers actually want to admit that that has happened
Absolutely.
too, right?
Yeah,
I do remember a case of a crop circle in Amelia, which is the closest I could be to one. But that's been grown over the years and stuff. So I've never really, I very rarely see that happening.
There's a
I
lot
mean-
of paranormal activity out there too. They have that diner train, that train car. They have a whole bunch of haunted buildings there.
What makes it haunted though? The story? Like, Like, what makes it
Well,
haunted?
I would frequent Amelia because we had a summer house like on Lake Simcoe, and we were only 15 minutes away. So, I picked up a lot on my own just being a medium. But and that was years ago when I was a kid.
Dolly says that getting back to crop circles, if it was ET, there would be a magnetic radiation left behind.
That's been reported. Also the nodes. So like it depends on like if they stepped on it, then they're just bent over. Usually the EMF or the electromagnetic field, if it was done by some sort of laser or whatever, some sort of thermal temperature, like light of some sort, the nodes in the crops will expand a little bit because the water will be disintegrated or evaporated inside. So they're still bent, but they're not broken. So I've seen pictures of them from a case in the UK. I've never seen them in personally as well, but I've studied them and I understood that was a strange phenomenon too, because in order to boil like all these crops and have them fold down, you would need an immense amount of heat or some sort of energy to do that. And if there was some radiation left over, then yes, but radiation doesn't stay forever. And the fluorescence that we sometimes get from contactees, apparently, you can shine a UV light on them after you've been touched, and then there's some fluorescence left behind. And that type of forensic evidence is easily contaminated if you just touch yourself and you don't know it, and you can't see it, and it doesn't last very long. From what's been reported by other people that have allegedly investigated it. Now, I'm not quite sure if they're just saying it's short to say it happened and then therefore it can't be retrieved. It's like a phantom piece of evidence. But like those types of things are going to be really hard to prove. But with the crop circles, might be its own phenomenon, might not be connected to ET, might be connected to government, might be something else. Like some of these things intertwine, but in order to physically connect or link them together to prove intent or a culprit or one source to be responsible, we do need a combination of the physical evidence, so like the actual photo of stuff, forensic evidence if we can retrieve it, and then all these reports where we don't really have much tangible stuff is still important, but when we build that database and that collection of that, it's circumstantial. But if that circumstantial evidence points me to a direction and then I find hard evidence, then that circumstantial evidence is now part of that hard evidence, which reinforces that circumstantial. So every case, no matter how insignificant it may be, is still important to the research. But as the experiencer, you should look at, or at least decide for yourself, what result you are expecting for your experience, because it's yours. And if you don't report it, we aren't able to talk about it. So you should have a conscious thought about what your expectations are, or what you want to come out of it, or give that to the people that are actually going to do the work, and what is the work and what gets the answer. So if you actually understand the scientific process, then you can see through my work that I'm doing it. And the reason why I'm not really so much popular in the UFO community is because these guys haven't been doing it, and I did it once and it totally wrecked their 80-year career. But like, I'm also an investigator that does this every day. So like, I'm the only like licensed guy active in the field right now. And it's not hard. It's not hard to do this link analysis if you're looking for the truth. It's hard when I'm doing all this and you're trying to sell your book and make money and feed your children. So these people that are mad at me are not attacking me directly. They just staying away from me. And I'm not. Here's another thing with Tessa, you can also report these types of people. And if you have evidence to prove that they are charlatans and they're charging you money for false answers and false interpretations, you make a report, you become anonymous. That activates the company, which is the private investigating firm. And I promise you that we can investigate and we can if found committing, we could authorize and recommend possible charges. So, you know, we've done that a couple times, but the report has to come from the experiencer because you're the victims. So you guys are important. You guys are the main focus of everything, and that's another reason why we have Tessa. Tessa is designed to put the experiencer first.
License in what is the
Investigation.
question? Yeah.
Yeah.
License in what? Sorry.
So it just says license in what?
He's asking what are you licensed in? That's
I'm
investigation.
I'm a licensed private investigator. I have an agency licensed to sell and distribute private investigating services as well as security officer services. So in Canada, it's security guard, in America, it's security officer. Same idea, dual license hybrid. So depending on the case, we can and there's paralegal and process serving as well. So we're essentially as close as you can get to a privatized police force as the main root business. And then Tessa, the Experiencer Support Association, which is my hobby and I'm using the resources from the company with my team as well, who helps transcribe and does other investigations. We're all working on it together, plus a couple other volunteers. So Chantel as well.
Sorry.
Let's say, do you want to get the last question? Yeah.
Mary
Before,
was asking,
Okay,
what are
good.
the signs of alien abductions for the finalizations? If you can put that in the next 2 minutes. That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, no pressure.
Signs that there's specifically aliens. So signs of visitation. Okay. I guess it would be residual evidence, something that's left behind, like you went to bed and you check your body, you wake up, you check your body, and there's something there that shouldn't be there. There's those kind of indicators. Memories might come later. You might go to bed and have a dream later and a nightmare, but then you have that dream again and again and again. So like there might be some trauma that is coming out later on. So there could be, that seems to be common. Does it mean it's an abduction? I don't know. You can't, but I mean, these are just common markers that come up for reports. If you are glowing fluorescent, if you're able to scan yourself with a UV light, every day and be able to catch it, that might be a sign of it. These are just what people are reporting. I'm not so sure people are actually being taken physically. If they are being taken, I think it's more probable that we're being mentally hijacked versus physically hijacked. And then we get into astral projection and all that other stuff too.
That's a common theory. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's probable versus likely? Because it's very easy to take your mind somewhere than to come into your house. Like, how would you physically come into my house and take me from my bedroom without me fighting you? So like how
subduing you, basically. Sleep paralysis, maybe that sort of thing. I mean, when you're looking at people experiencing being probed or they're experiencing needles going into the eyes, things like that, are they doing that with essence or are they really physically doing it? People waking up with bruises. People are,
That could be even from restraining you. That
go to bed with your cell phones in your pocket. And then as soon as you're able to
GPS.
I can give you some pointers on hidden cameras.
Yeah.
You got a little pinhole camera in your button.
Yeah,
Go to sleep with the shirt.
That's
go to bed.
That new jammies, people.
We need evidence. We need evidence.
PI of you. I love that.
We need evidence.
Do you ever work with missing children?
Yes, missing people. I have.
Well, if you ever need assistance, please keep me in mind. I'd love to work with you.
Are you talking the mediumship?
Yeah.
There is something that I would like to do. There is a case in our area that's like a cold case that hasn't been solved, and it's going to pop up in the news every Halloween.
Okay.
Unless you know it, like I don't want to say it.
No, I don't know it. Don't
if
tell
you don't
me.
know exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe if I could get you to tell me where that person is, and I happen to go there and find it.
Well, we'll connect on Facebook. There's a few things that I need to know.
That might validate your work too, right?
Well, I've been doing
missing the hell out of that.
I've been doing missing children since 2012.
Okay.
Yeah. But,
Yeah, that definitely would help. Of course,
it
we'd
would
have
be
to.
nice. Yeah, I do a lot of them in the States, so it would be nice to put some of that effort and that
I
ability
would.
into Canada.
That's a good justice too. We just have to explain to the police officers how we knew they were there. So that would be.
I work with
we'll handle that.
police. I work with
Yeah.
law enforcement.
So good. Then you got that. Then you won't be. I'll just be the guy that goes and finds it and be like, hey, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the reasons why mediums don't work the cases is because they become suspects when it's first.
And I appreciate, like, how do we, like, a guy like me would need to work with someone like you to endorse the possibility that it works. I need people to not be afraid to be investigated and to experience you in your element. And if you're able to do it, then that's like.
I'm laughing at our producer because he wrote Bubbles anyway. Bubbles he's referring to me as an alien beware.
Okay.
Dork. He's a dork. I'm not an alien.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
Is that the 2 hours already? That was quick.
Yeah, we're pretty much there. But this is the part where we give you the opportunity to tell everybody how to find you, what you have coming up, so we can get you promoted.
Yeah, no worries. So if you can follow me directly if you go to facebook.com/heed the world. So HEEDTHWORLD. I'm also on Twitter at heedtheworld_RS. If you need assistance and stuff, I will most likely direct you to Tessa, because that's how the legalities of getting access to the information. It's a process, but it's important to make sure that we're handling it right. So and you can find me on the website. So the best place is the website, www.tessacan.org. So TESACAN.org. You'll also find everybody else on the team, or demonologists or cryptozoologists, in our other resources. You'll see my work, you'll see my research, you'll see my map. Everything's available for anyone to look at and use and study and chirp if you really want to, rip it apart if you want. But so far, I'm undisputed. So it's working. So tessacan.org. We'll have everything, YouTube channel, podcast every Thursday at 8. You can join in similar to this, ask your questions live, interrogate some people in the field. I'd love to get you guys on, but I think the scheduling is a little bit different because you guys have a show on Thursdays, right?
Yeah.
We do.
So I am thinking about doing a pre-recorded, but it's not as fun as the live. But maybe we'll make it.
We've had to do it for our guests on the other side of the pond, so to speak. So
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make an exception and we'll do something like that in the future. Or we'll do an investigation together. Who knows?
That could be fun too. But thank you for joining us. It was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again.
Thanks for the invitation. I really do appreciate the opportunity.
Oh,
and thank
God.
you for your work too. We're all in this together, so I hope I could be assistance as an aid, and we'll do whatever I can.
Absolutely. I love it. Working as a collective. That's how things get accomplished properly. Not being all weird about, not sharing information or basically teaching. I love to teach. I think it's
aces in places, less is more. If you like to teach, that's cool, because the academy part, once I teach everyone how to investigate, then there'll be that extra level where it's like, then you focus on your discipline. I'll do the ufology, maybe, you can do mediumship. But there's so many things. Right. I got ideas, peeps. Ideas.
Keep them going. I'm sure you'll bring them all into fruition. So, but again, thank you. And
you're welcome. Thank you.
We'll definitely be in touch.
Okay.
We'll do this again.
All right.
Thanks so
all right,
much.
Ryan. Thank you. We have come to another end of a fantastic segment here on the Outer Realm. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Big thank you to everybody in chat room. Quite a few comments and questions tonight, so we thank you. Big thank you to Ryan Stacey for joining us this evening. Joe Montaldo, of course, who is the best producer on the planet. Big thank you to Folgers for sponsoring us, as always. Thank you, Folgers. Remember to stop by the International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio, and the other one, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. Please subscribe. While you're there, head on over to YouTube, or rather Facebook, and find us on the Outer Realm. Go ahead, like us up, we'd appreciate it. If you'd like to communicate with us, maybe you didn't like the show, maybe you love the show, maybe you have a show idea, maybe you'd like to see a guest, maybe you'd like to be a guest, go to the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. The Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Tune in tomorrow night as we're going to try this again. We are going to be welcoming Mr. Wayne Murphy. Okay, he's a Mohican elder, and he's going to be touching on a lot of folklore and legends, and he's probably, we're going to pry it out of him, give us some insight on the Knights Templar discovery here in North America, and he is also the owner of Team Templar North America, and he's going to be helping rewrite the history books. So until then, Amelia and I thank you. Have a good evening, and we'll see you all tomorrow night.